All right, so this is assignment 1 for SLHS1302. For this assignment, you're going to need R and RStudio running on your computer. If you do not yet have those running on your computer, you're going to want to go back to assignment 0 and go through the first two parts of that assignment. And assignment 0 can be found on the Canvas webpage. So for each assignment in this course, you're going to want to work in groups of 2 to 3 people. You may also choose to work alone if you would prefer. Make sure to put your name and group member names at the top left corner of your assignments. So there's a place where you can put your name, group members' names, your ID numbers, as well as your section numbers. Those of you in the in-class section will put 002. Those of you in the online section will put 003 for your section number. So the learning objectives for this assignment are to understand and define basic statistical concepts, to use R to organize and evaluate data through summaries, tables, and graphs, and to use R to save graphs, encoding history, and scripts. And those are all things that you will be learning as you go through this assignment. So for part 1 of assignment 1, you are going to be asked to define the following terms in your own words. These terms are categorical variable, population, and sample. You'll be able to find definitions for each of these words in your class notes, as well as through a simple Google search. And so your response to each of these questions is worth 1 point. And then for question 2, it's asking, in this chapter, the authors mentioned that in English, letters and sounds do not have a one-to-one correspondence. A letter might pronounce as one sound in one context and another sound in another context. Is this problem unique to English? Give an example. And so this question is also worth 1 point. So in total, for part 1, there are 4 points that you can earn. For part 2 of assignment 1, you're going to apply R to work on real data collected from a survey. So in this survey, 25 people gave their responses, agreed, disagreed, or undecided on whether there should be a tax increase for the rich or not. And rich is signified as having a yearly income above $1 million. So for this assignment, you're going to run the following R command lines, line by line, and you are going to fill in the results of your R commands in the designated highlighted spaces. So the R codes are in highlighted areas throughout the document, and they're in the font Courier New. And so any pound sign, or as you may know it, a hashtag symbol, designates comments from the surrounding code lines. So comments preceding a section tells you what we are doing, and the comments following each code line in the highlighted areas tell you what the line just did. For step 0 of part 2, you're going to prepare for a working directory. So the first set of code lines are for Windows users, and the second set are for Mac users. So these code lines will create a directory that will be for SLHS1302 and assignment 1. And then for each assignment, as you're going throughout the course, you will set up this directory for that assignment. So what you will do is you will copy and paste the code lines into R. And you want to open up a new R script for each assignment. So as I said, you'll copy and then you will paste them in. So we will run the first line first to create the directory. As you can see, we have an error message down at the bottom in the console. That is because I did not fill in the X's. So when you're going through your assignment, you're going to want to replace the X's with your computer's username. So that may be your name or some sort of nickname that you provided the computer when setting it up. And then you will want to run the second line and then this third line. And so what each of these lines does is the first one creates a folder under your user home called R, and within it there is a subfolder called SLHS1302, and then within that folder there is a subfolder titled Assignment 1. And then this line right here will set up your working directory, and then this line will bring it forward into R. And so if you're a Mac user, you will then want to do what we just did for Windows users, where you copy and then paste the lines into R. And get that to come up. So as I said, copy and paste. You'll run each of the lines, and then these lines will do the exact same thing as they did for the Windows users. The only difference is how this line right here is typed into R, as well as this line. And so once again, replace the X's with your username for your laptop. Now that you've created a directory, you can move on to step one, where you will be actually reading in the data for the text-rich survey. So what you will want to do is take these code lines here and insert them into R. You have the option to either copy and paste or to type directly into R. You can choose whichever way you prefer. So what I will do is copy these lines and then move over to R, where I will then insert them. So you'll want to read each line in individually. So we'll run this first line. So what this line is doing is reading in a text file from a designated location. And the argument header tells R whether there is a title for each column or not. So header equals true means that there is a title for each column. We will then read in this code line. And when you do this, we are seeing the R output of the values for the data set. So we see that there are a total of 25 lines. So for subject, we have the subject numbers, and for opinion, we have each subject's answer. So A, as we mentioned earlier, means agree, D, disagree, and U, undecided. And then we will run this line here. And so this provides information about the function read.delim with parens. And so we're going to note that there are many arguments that this function can take. And if you do not know what the help code line means, you can check assignment 0 for more information on that. So to go back through these code lines, once again, this reads in the data. And so we can see over here in the global environment, we have the data, and the actual working name for this data set is data. We can see that there are 25 observations with 2 variables each. So when we run the code line data, we are seeing this output right here, which shows us these 2 variables of subject and opinion. And then, as I mentioned, the help with read.delim provides us with this over here, which just provides us with a description of what you can do when you input data into R. All right, and also while you are going through and inserting your code lines into your R script, you may want to save the code lines every so often, and then you can save this R script as the assignment name. So I'm going to give it the name assignment 1, and then we will save that. And then you can see up here that it changed from untitled to assignment 1. All right, so going back to the assignment, we can move on to step 2. So with this, we are going to take the variable opinion from the data set and assign it to the name opinion so that it will be its own variable, and you can then manipulate that as its own data set. So as we did with the other section, we will copy these code lines and then paste them into R. And so we want to run each code line separately. So we will run this code line. And what this line does is select the column called opinion from the dataset data, and it assigns it the content, or assigns the content a name opinion. And so just note that the $sign is used to select a column from a data set. So we took opinion from the data set data. All right, and then you will want to run opinion. And so by running opinion, we are seeing the values of that new subset of the data. And so we're seeing all of the answers that the subjects had, and then we're seeing the different levels, which just means the different answers that the subjects could have had in the survey. So A, D, U for agree, disagree, or undecided. Moving on to step 3, we are going to generate some tables from the data set. So we can just copy these code lines and move them into R. So we'll paste them. This first code line that you run is creating a table for the dataset data, and it is given the name T1. So we will run T1 to get the output for that table. And you can see that over here in the console. You can also see T1 up here in the global environment. And then next we will run the code line T2 equals table opinion, run that. And what that is doing is creating a table for the variable opinion. And that table is prescribed the name T2. And so then we will then run this code line T2. And then this provides us with the output for the variable opinion in a table format. So we see that for agree, we have 11 responses, disagree, 9 responses, undecided, 5. And then remember every once in a while to save your R script. All right, for step 4, we are going to get summaries of the data. So what we will be doing again is copying these code lines and inserting them into R. We will run each code line individually. So this first code line is providing us with a summary of the data, and so that it's titled S1. We will then run the code line S1 to see the output of that. We see that down here in the console. We also see S1 up here in the global environment. We will then run this code line, which is giving us a summary of the variable opinion, and it is prescribed the title S2. And so then to see the output of that summary, we will run the code line S2. And once again, this gives us this output down here. In your assignment, there's a section for you to input that output. So you'll go to R, go down to the console, and then just copy this and paste it into your R document. And so then this is something that you will then submit with your assignment on campus. Moving on to step 5, we are going to convert the content for the tables from the tables into percentages. So what we'll be doing is taking these code lines and putting them into R. And so what this code line is doing is taking the values from table 2 and then converting them into percentages. So table 2, as we recall, is for the opinion variable. So when we run this code line, we're calculating the percentages of the values in that table, and we can see that over here in the global environment. And then when we actually run this code line, we will see those values. So we see that for agree, we have 44%, D or disagree, we have 36%, and U, undecided, we have 20%. And so in the assignment, we can see that there is a place for us to copy this or these results. So we'll go back into R, copy this part right here, and then paste it into our assignment document. And then we can move on to step 6, where we will plot the graphical results. So for 6.1, we will be plotting a pie chart. So what you want to do is take these code lines and put them into R. And so what this code line right here is doing is creating a pie chart where we are taking table 2, so that is the values for the opinion variable. And we are then creating a pie chart from that table too. So we'll run that. And so over here we can see this pie chart in the plot section. And then we want to give it a title. So we will title it Survey Opinion. And then going back to the assignment, we can also see we can plot the data in a bar plot. So we will take this code line and copy it into R, and then we can run it. And then over here we see this bar plot. So there's a part for A for agree, D disagree, U undecided, and then once again we're seeing those values that we found earlier. So agree we have 11, disagree we have 9, and undecided we have 5. And then whereas if you go back to the pie chart by clicking this back arrow, we can see that it is showing us those percentages we got. So agree, it shows about 44%, disagree, we're seeing about 36%, and undecided, about 20%. Okay, and then we will save the R script once again. All right, so there's also the option to combine the two plots into one graph so that we can see that pie chart and bar plot in the same plot. So what we will do is first take these code lines right here. And what this code line does is it allows us to plot two different figures in the same space. So we see that we have one row, two columns. So the one row, we will see just two side-by-side figures. And so then let's take the code line for the pie chart, put that into R, run that code line. So we're seeing it over here in the plot. You can see that there is a space for another figure. So we will take the code line for the bar plot, insert it into, oops, not that one, insert it into R, run that line. And so we're seeing these two figures side by side. And so the next part you're going to want to do is save the graph. So you'll take these code lines right here, copy them into R. So this first line right here will save the figure in the JPEG format and save it, and it will save it to your directory. And then this one right here turns off the saving function. So if you go back to your folder, you should be able to see a graphic file for this figure. And then you also want to save your R history with these code lines. So like with everything else, copy, paste into R, and then run them. So the history line will give us a print of our coding history. So we see that over here in the history section. And then we will do this code line, which will then save the history into our assignment 1 folder in your directory. And then lastly, you'll want to insert that graph that we created into your assignment document. So there are a few options for that. One option is to export the image, so you can save as an image or save as a PDF. Another option is to just take a screenshot of it, insert it into your assignment. So what we will do is save as an image. So we see it as file name is rplot. You can change it to whatever you want. So we could change it to assignment 1 figure if that is what you would prefer, or just name it whatever you want so that you can find it later. And then we see that it is saved to the directory. Another option is to just save to your desktop. So save that. All right. Remember to save your script. And then if we go to desktop, should be able to find that. Get right up there. So we see that figure on our desktop, and should be able to just paste it right in to your assignment. So we see it there. And then this is what your figure should look like in your assignment. And then this is worth 2 points. And so then you will want to upload your assignment onto the Canvas webpage when you have completed it. And so you want to remember to put your name at the beginning of the document. And then while going through the assignment, just make sure to fill in the areas that are worth points. So we see for part 1, we have 4 points, 1 for defining categorical variable, 1 for defining population, 1 for defining sample, and then 1 point for answering the question. And then when we move into part 2, where we are using R, we see a number of highlighted regions that are highlighted in yellow. Yellow means insert corresponding information. So for the X's, your name. This is not worth points, but it may be good to, in the assignment document, to put your name in these code lines just for reference if you come back to this assignment in the future. So we see that there is a spot where you have to insert your summary information for opinion. So remember to put that in. That is worth 2 points. 2 points for putting in the percentages for the opinion data. And then 2 points for inserting your graph. So in total, that is 10 points. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me, as well as refer to this video for questions about how to complete the assignment.